This is the rhythm of Harlem in 1935. It is the sound of jazz, the smell of gunpowder, and the silence of a grave. This is the story of the night Dutch Schultz tried to swallow a neighborhood whole and choked on the bone known as Ellsworth, Bumpy Johnson. 3 a.m., the dead hour, the time when good men are asleep and bad men are doing their work. The basement of a warehouse on 135th Street smells like stale beer and wet wool. It's dark. The only light comes from a single naked bulb swinging on a wire. It casts long, nervous shadows against the brick. Bumpy Johnson sits at a small table. He is alone. His hands rest flat on the wood, manicured nails, a gold ring that catches the light. He isn't moving. He isn't blinking. He looks like a statue carved out of obsidian and patience. Across from him in the shadows, 12 men. You can hear their leather jackets creaking. You can smell the cheap brilliantine in their hair. They are Dutch Schultz's men, the best killers the Bronx has to offer. They hold Tommy guns. Heavy, cold steel. The barrels are pointed at Bumpy's chest. One of them steps forward. A man named Call. He has a scar running through his eyebrow. He is grinning. It's the grin of a wolf looking at a lamb. He racks the slide of his weapon. Clack, clack. The sound echoes off the concrete. It's loud. It's final. Call speaks. His voice is a gravel pit. Dutch sends his regards, Bumpy. He says Harlem is closed for business. Bumpy doesn't flinch. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He reaches for a pack of cigarettes. He pulls one out, tapping it slowly against the table. Tap, 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 tap. He puts it to his lips. He strikes a match. The flame flares up, illuminating his eyes. They aren't fearful. They are bored. He takes a drag. The cherry glows red. He exhales a long stream of blue smoke toward the ceiling. You boys are a long way from home, Bumpy says. His voice is smooth, like velvet dragged over a razor blade. Did you bring a map, or did you just follow the smell of your own fear? Call's smile vanishes. He raises the gun. His finger tightens on the trigger. The metal goes white at the knuckle. Goodbye, Bumpy, Call sneers. But the gun doesn't fire. Instead, the lights go out. Total darkness, pitch black, and then a sound, not a gunshot. The sound of a lock clicking shut from the outside. To understand why 12 men are currently screaming in the dark, you have to understand the hunger. Not just the hunger for food. This is the Great Depression. Everyone is hungry. But this is a different kind of starvation. This is the hunger for power. Arthur Dutch Schultz was a man eating the world, the beer baron of the Bronx. A man so violent even the mafia called him a rabid dog. He had the politicians, he had the cops, he had the bootlegging routes, but he didn't have the numbers. The numbers racket in Harlem was a river of nickels and dimes that flowed into an ocean of millions. It was the poor man's stock market. A penny on a slip of paper could pay your rent for a month. It was hope. And in 1935, hope was the most valuable commodity in New York City. Dutch looked at Harlem and saw a gold mine unguarded. He saw black operators he thought were weak. He saw easy money. He was wrong. He didn't see the people. He didn't see the desperate father on a 16th Street putting his last nickel on a number to buy medicine for a daughter coughing up blood. He didn't see the grandmother on Lenox Avenue praying that 7 to 1-4 would hit so she could keep the heat on. The numbers were just a business. They were the heartbeat of the community, and Bumpy Johnson was the pacemaker. But Dutch had leverage. He found the cracks in the foundation. He found men like Silas the Weasel Green. Silas wasn't a bad man. He was just a drowning one. He owed $5,000 to loan sharks who promised to break his son's legs. One leg for every day he was late. Dutch offered him a way out. All Silas had to do was open a door. All he had to do was tell Dutch where Bumpy would be at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Silas looked at his son sleeping in the crib. He looked at the bruises on his own ribs. He made the choice. He sold his soul for a canceled debt. So when Dutch Schultz sent 40 men into Harlem that night, 40 hardened killers, to sweep the streets and decapitate the leadership, he thought he had the keys to the kingdom. He thought he was walking into a slaughterhouse to butcher the cattle. He didn't realize he was the one walking onto the killing floor. They called him the Professor. Bumpy Johnson didn't just run the streets, he studied them. While Dutch Schultz was screaming at his underlings and throwing bottles of whiskey at the wall, Bumpy was sitting in a quiet room, reading Machiavelli. He was reading Sun Tzu. He was reading Shakespeare's Richard III. He understood something the mobsters downtown never grasped. Information is ammunition. Bumpy didn't rely on muscle alone. He had an army of ghosts. The shoeshine boy on the corner of 125? He was Bumpy's eyes. The janitor mopping the floors at the police precinct? He was Bumpy's ears. The coat check girl at the Cotton Club who smiled at the gangsters and took their hats? She was Bumpy's memory. Every time a strange car with Bronx plates crossed 110th Street, Bumpy knew. Every time a new shipment of guns arrived at a warehouse in Yonkers, Bumpy knew. He treated Harlem like a chessboard. Every street corner was a square, every soldier was a pawn, and he was the grandmaster moving the pieces in the dark. He knew Silas was going to betray him 3 days before it happened. He didn't kill Silas. That's what a thug would do. A thug reacts. A general prepares. Bumpy watched Silas sweat. He watched him make the phone call from the payphone at the drugstore. He watched him tremble as he whispered the location. The warehouse, 135th, 3 a.m. Bumpy sat in his study, surrounded by books. He sipped a glass of warm milk. He looked at the map of Harlem on his wall. He could have fled. He could have gone to ground. But Bumpy knew that power isn't about hiding. It's about standing still when everyone expects you to run. He knew Dutch would send a strike team. He knew they would come heavy. He calculated the travel time from the Bronx. He estimated the number of cars. He predicted their route. He didn't bring 40 men to meet them. He didn't bring an army. He brought a plan. He turned the warehouse into a stage. He set the props. He checked the lighting. And then he sat down at the table, lit a cigarette, and waited for the audience to arrive. He was 3 moves ahead. And Dutch Schultz was still trying to figure out the rules of the game. Harlem in the 30s wasn't just a place, it was a mood. It was the smell of fried chicken drifting out of Wells's restaurant. It was the cloud of expensive cigar smoke hanging over the velvet booths at the Lenox Lounge. It was the crisp snap of a fresh $100 bill. It was a world within a world. Walk down 7th Avenue at midnight. The pavement vibrates. You can feel the bass from the jazz clubs in the soles of your shoes. The trumpets scream like jagged gold. The saxophones cry like lovers saying goodbye. It's beautiful. But under the beauty, there is the iron. The streets have a rhythm. Step, step, slide. Watch your back. Keep your head up. The numbers racket was the blood in the veins of this city. It wasn't just gambling. It was banking for people the banks wouldn't touch. It was the economy of the excluded. Runners dashed through alleyways, clutching slips of paper like state secrets. Controllers sat in back rooms, counting mountains of coins under the haze of cigarette smoke, and watching over it all was the silence. The silence between heartbeats. The silence when a car slows down too much. The silence when the music stops. That night, the silence was heavy. The air felt thick, like it was charged with electricity. The streetlights seemed dim, struggling against the encroaching darkness. The locals knew. The grandmothers pulled their curtains tight. The night watchmen locked their doors. The jazz musicians played a little softer, a little more mournful. Something was coming. A storm from the north. Dutch's convoy rolled across the bridge like a funeral procession. Black sedans. Packards and Cadillacs. Their engines purred with a low, menacing rumble. They moved past the Savoy Ballroom, past the hot dog stands, past the brownstones where families slept 4 to a bed. They looked out the windows at the streets they planned to conquer. They saw easy pickings. They saw a playground. They didn't see the eyes watching them from the rooftops. They didn't see the shadows moving in the alleyways. They didn't see that the streets themselves were alive, and they were breathing. Harlem was waiting. It was holding its breath, and it was ready to exhale fire. Back in the warehouse, the darkness is absolute. 12 men, 12 killers, trapped in a stone box with the devil himself. Panic is a cold thing. It starts in the stomach and climbs up the throat. "Who turned out the lights?" Call screams. His voice cracks. The bravado is gone. You hear the scuffling of boots, the sound of bodies bumping into crates. "Stay still," someone yells. "Don't shoot. You'll hit one of us." And then a voice cuts through the blackness. Bumpy's voice. It doesn't come from the table anymore. It comes from everywhere. It bounces off the walls. "You boys like the dark?" Bumpy asks. "The dark is honest. You can't hide your fear in the dark." A flashlight beam slices through the room. It's blindingly bright. It catches Call in the face. He throws his hands up, then another beam, and another. 6 beams of light, cutting through the dust, pinning the 12 men in a crossfire of illumination. They aren't coming from Bumpy, they are coming from the rafters, high up, above the single naked bulb that had gone out. Bumpy's men. They had been there the whole time, silent as spiders, clinging to the steel beams waiting for the signal. Drop them, Bumpy says, the sound of 12 Tommy guns hitting the concrete floors heavy, thud, thud, clatter. The lights widen. You can see the faces of Dutch's men now. They are pale. They are sweating. They look like children who got caught stealing candy. Bumpy is standing now. He is by the door. He holds a glass of cognac in his hand. He swirls it gently. The amber liquid catches the flashlight beams. He takes a sip. He savors it. You thought you were the hunters, Bumpy says softly, but you were just the delivery boys. He gestures to the corner of the room. A tarp is pulled back. Underneath are crates, not crates of merchandise, crates of merchandise. The wires run from the crates to a plunger near Bumpy's hand. Dutch sent 40 men tonight, Bumpy says. 12 here, 28 spread out across my city, trying to hit my banks, trying to hit my runners. He pauses. He looks at his watch. Right about now, the rest of your friends are finding out that the addresses Silas gave them, they don't lead to banks. Boom! A muffled explosion echoes from somewhere distant in the city. Then another, and another. The floor of the warehouse vibrates. Dutch's men flinch. Those were empty storefronts, Bumpy explains. Rigged, just like this one. He isn't smiling. This isn't funny to him. It's arithmetic. Silas told Dutch what I wanted him to tell Dutch, and you walked right into it. Call looks at the dynamite. He looks at Bumpy. He realizes the depth of the trap. It wasn't a shootout. It was a demolition. Bumpy sets the glass of cognac down on a crate. I'm not going to kill you all, Bumpy says. The air in the room shifts. Confusion mixes with the terror. Killing you is easy. But dead men don't carry messages. The silence returns. It is heavier now. It is the silence of judgment. Bumpy walks closer to the men. He walks right into the circle of light. He is unarmed. He doesn't need a gun. His presence is the weapon. He stops in front of Call. He looks him up and down. He sees the cheap suit. He smells the fear sweat. You work for a man who doesn't know your name, Bumpy says. Dutch Schultz thinks money buys loyalty. He thinks fear buys respect. Bumpy reaches into his pocket. The men flinch, but he doesn't pull out a pistol. He pulls out a single poker chip. It's from one of his own houses. It's worthless outside of Harlem, but inside, it's a promise. He presses the chip into Call's hand. He closes Call's fingers around it. This is for the toll, Bumpy says. To cross the bridge back to the Bronx. He steps back. 9 of you are going to leave here tonight. 3 of you are staying. The men look at each other. The math is brutal. 12 men. 9 tickets home. You pick, Bumpy says. Decide amongst yourselves who wants to live. He turns his back on them. He walks toward the door. You have 2 minutes. He steps out of the warehouse. He closes the heavy steel door. Inside, the screaming starts. Not from torture, from betrayal, from the desperate, clawing need to survive. The sound of wolves eating their own. Bumpy stands on the sidewalk. The night air is cool. He adjusts his cufflinks. He lights another cigarette. He listens to the chaos inside. He doesn't enjoy it. It's just necessary. When the door opens again, 9 men stumble out. They are beaten. They are bloody. Their clothes are torn. They are broken men. They don't look at Bumpy. They run. They scramble into their cars. They tear away from the curb, tires screeching, engines roaring in a panic to get away from the darkness of Harlem. They left 3 bodies behind. A sacrifice to the logic of the street. Bumpy watches the taillights fade. He didn't just win a fight. He sent a message to the world. He told them that Harlem isn't just a territory, it's a fortress. He told Dutch Schultz that you cannot buy what cannot be sold. You cannot conquer a people who have nothing left to lose but their pride. Dutch Schultz went pale when he heard the story. He smashed his desk. He raged. But he never sent an army into Harlem again. He learned the lesson that the 9 survivors carried back across the river. Respect is not given, it is taken. 40 men crossed the river. 9 came back. Bumpy Johnson didn't fire a single shot that night. He didn't have to. He used their own greed against them. He used their own arrogance as the noose. He defended his home. He defended his people. And he did it with a glass of cognac in his hand and Shakespeare in his mind. But here is the question that haunts the history books. Was Bumpy Johnson a hero? He was a criminal, a murderer, a man who profited from vice. Or was he a guardian, a necessary monster who stood at the gate and kept the other wolves at bay? If the law won't protect you, if the government forgets you, if the world tries to crush you, do you bow down? Or do you become Bumpy Johnson? What would you have done if it was your neighborhood? If it was your family? Tell us in the comments below. Hero or villain? The line is thinner than you think. And if you think Dutch Schultz was a dangerous enemy, you haven't seen anything yet. Because Bumpy's war is just beginning. The Italian mafia is watching. Lucky Luciano is making his moves. And a young red-headed preacher named Malcolm Little is about to step onto the stage. Make sure you're subscribed. You don't want to miss the next move on the chessboard. This is the story of the streets. And the streets never forget.